Hello everybody, welcome back to video 6 of creating a sprite sheet out of a Blender object for Unity. At this point you should have all of your images rendered from our demo Quell engine that we've been creating. And what we are going to do now is we're going to edit these to prepare them for exporting to a sprite sheet. And if you notice, you may want to do this for a couple of reasons. You may want to go in frame by frame and do some kind of light texturing that is hard to do in Blender. Maybe you want to add by hand. You want to hand draw some lightning on each of these. I don't know. In our case, what we want to do is we want to bring this in. We want to crop this a little closer to our object, and also we want to resize. We have 24 objects. We're going to have 3 separate sprite sheets, 1 through frame 24, and that's going to be our spin up process. 25 through 48 is going to be our spinning process, and then 49 through 72 is going to be our spin down process. And all 3 of those are going to be on separate sprite sheets. So our end goal is to have these in a square shape. So they're going to be a lot closer to a square. And we're also going to need to resize these. What we're looking for is sprite sheets that are 2048 in dimensions for mobile. Game dev, if you go larger than that, mobile games have issues with those sprite sheets. And since our objects are square, it's kind of easy to calculate how many we need to have in a grid. Since we have 24, you need at least a grid that's going to be big enough to contain all of your frames. Well, we're using 24 frames, so a 5 by 5 grid is enough. And since our dimensions are 2048 divided by 5, we need to have at least 409 pixels or less in width. So that helps us in kind of determining where we need to resize our images to. So we're going to be using a photo imaging imaging manipulation software, photo editing software called Gimp, and we also have an add-on called Export Layers 3.3.1. That allows us to not only can we now bring images in as separate layers, we can now export the layers once we're done editing them out to separate images. Some people roll their own script and everything, but this has worked well for me so far. So I'm going to include a link in the documentation on where you can find that, and they have instructions on how to install it. Actually, it's an executable. You can just run it. Okay, so at this point, we're going to go to Open as Layers, and we're going to bring in all of our images that we've just created, all of our rendered shots. Okay, so you can bring in one at a time, which would be painful. You can also shift select and bring them all in, and this is going to open them all up. And Gimp works with layers. That's what makes it so much more powerful than something like Paint. I mean, there's a lot of things that do that, but the ability to work with layers is just awesome. Okay, so now we have all of our layers here. They're all visible. If you were doing frame by frame editing, you would want to probably hide all of these except for the last one, and then you can select it. That makes it active, and that's the one whenever you're out here drawing or erasing or whatever, that's what makes it active. I forget the shortcut for hiding all of your visible layers, so sorry about that. But that's not why we're here anyways. Okay, for us, we're just going to be resizing this. This is fairly easy. We're going to be resizing this canvas. All of the canvas fits inside, all of the layers fit inside what's a canvas, and your canvas size is how the layers are displayed. If this is chained together, it means whenever you start changing one, it's going to change them both. So break that chain. We want a square around these, so 540. And we're going to also be resizing the layers with them. If you were growing them up, like you're making the layers bigger, you can fill the extra area that you bring in from the canvas with transparency or with whatever color you want. This doesn't really matter for us because we're actually shrinking. And notice here you can also change the offset, but for us it works to just center it, and that's what we want. So we're going to resize that, and this comes in perfect. We got a square and a half, it looks like, around all corners. However, our image, if you notice, our canvas is 540. Well, we need it to be 409 or less. So we're going to rescale this. Actually, and that rescales it. You just go in here to image, scale image, and that will do it. Now we're just going to make sure, just for peace of mind, our canvas size is also adjusted to that. Okay, so now whenever we export, we should be able to get this in a 5x5 grid and a 2048 size sheet. So now we're going to save this. We're going to save our project here in our demo Quell folder. We'll just call this the XCF file. That is the Gimp file type. And so at this point, it already contains all of our images, and it actually contains those, which means we can go ahead and remove these. And I'm removing these because I'm about to I don't want 1,000 different copies, so I'm just going to re-render these out. And this is where that plugin comes on, where it's not native Gimp functionality, this export layers. And make sure all your layers are visible. If you've gone through and hidden some, you need to make sure that they're visible to render out. Go to File, Export Layers, and we are going to export them again to this folder. Your file extension, PNG, everything looks good there. So now we will export. Notice they're a lot tighter cropped. Nice square. And once we have these, the next software that we're going to be using is called Texture Packer GUI, and this will compile all of our various images into one sprite sheet. Okay, so we've saved this. We can close it. And one feature that's cool, let's just kind of put this on a half window here. I'm going to open Texture Packer up. I'm going to use the free version. Everything I've done so far has been free. It's just amazing all the tools that are out there. Okay, like I said earlier, we're going to have three separate sprite sheets. The first one is the spin up process, and that's these first 24 frames. Frames 25 through 48 is our spinning process, and that's just going to be another sprite sheet, and then we will have a final sprite sheet for the spinning down processes, and that's 49 through 72. Okay, so to start here, we're just going to drag in our first 24 frames that we had on a shift select. We can minimize this now. Okay, so this already has, you can try some of the pro features. Notice this came in perfectly for our 2048. If you have the pro version, I don't know, you notice it's out of order, but if we disable the features here, we go to basic rendering, which is what we want for Unity. It will put them in the proper order. There's some images, some things that will use a sprite sheet that use mapping files and everything. I've never been able to figure out how to get it to work in Unity. I honestly don't think that they use them. But here's our sprite sheet, 2048. If you did have a sprite sheet that was larger, you would get a notice here about your mobile devices should not exceed 2048. So that's why we went through the issue, or through the extra step of calculating how big we would need it to be. And voila, there it is. So we've disabled all of our pro features. If you try to use pro features and you're on a free version, then it's going to turn some of these images red. So we don't want that. So now we are going to place our file just in here. We'll call it Sprite. Sheet 1. How about Sprite sheet spin up? We'll save that. Then once you're done, you can just publish your sprite sheet here. Okay. And now we go back to our folder. Well, where did I render it? Where did I put it? Actually, I put it in the wrong folder here, but that's okay. It's right here. Sprite sheet spin up. This is our guy. Looks good. Okay, so now I'm just going to cut this out and put it over here with the rest of our stuff. Okay, we got that one. So now we will remove all these. Bring in our next 24 frames. That's 25 through 48. "24 more frames copied over." Okay. I'm going to change this folder now to there. And we're going to call this sprite sheet, how about spinning? Is that 2 ends? Sure, why not? Okay. We're not going to do that. We don't want to use any advanced features. We don't want to do anything different than we did last time. So at this point, now we can publish it out. Okay. And then our final 24 frame, 49 through 72. This is going to be spin down. Okay, and publish sprite sheet. There are some advanced features to Texture Packer. I've liked this from all the different sprite rendering tools I've used so far. I've used a couple of different ones. This is the best one I've tried so far, and it does have a lot of advanced features I've not used. I know that you can, if you expect to go back and change some of these images, maybe you just have a placeholder here and you're going to update it, it will automatically recreate the updated sprite sheet. I don't know if that's a pro feature or what, but I know that it has some pretty advanced capabilities. I really recommend them. Even if you're just using the free version, I like it. So I'll put a link to this tool as well in the description. We don't need to save it. It's pretty easy to rebuild these if we want. And if we go in here, now we have our 3 different sprite sheets. And these are what Unity will use to loop through to display the animation. Good looking sprite sheets. At this point, that's everything for this video. The next video we will start working with these in Unity. So please come back and watch. Please subscribe if you'd like to see these kinds of videos. Or if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching.